It's our wall of hearts. So our members will make a heart for their loved one of their name, birth, and their angel date.
I have lost my daughter. I know she didn't know this drug that was prescribed by a doctor could end up killing her.
Hello, everybody. Alice, you're back. I knew I recognized you.
It's Monday night at the Christie Center, and Kathy Collins is getting ready to start tonight's grief counseling. Tonight is an open meeting. Anyone can come in and talk about their loss, but recently Kathy saw the need for a specific group.
I saw that there was a great need for the overdose group just because of two factors. One being that so many people from our group were coming in with that specific loss. And I could tell that there were a lot of issues that they wanted to talk about. And with overdose, it's just not the immediate overdose. It's years of going into their addiction with their loved one. And so our groups were getting so big that I thought, let's go ahead and open up a group twice a month for overdose loss.
The group has grown steadily since it started more than a year ago. One of the regulars is Leslie. Her daughter Marissa died of an accidental overdose in 2016.
When she passed away, we had no idea what happened. I kept thinking, my daughter had seizures. It was probably just a seizure that she had at night and ended up, not waking up. Okay, here's a good one right here. And I remember the day I got a call from the medical examiner's office, and she very clinically said, your daughter died of an overdose. And at that moment, I just said, no, my daughter did not die of an overdose. No, my daughter wouldn't take her seizure medicine because she was breastfeeding and she was afraid it would hurt her child, so how could she have died of an overdose? She was very sick that day and her head hurt a lot. So at some point, she was given somebody's prescription drug and ended up taking it. The drug, which was a perfectly, I suppose, legal, okay dose for whoever it was prescribed to. But that small amount ended up killing my daughter.
Marissa's death is one of thousands in the country's current opioid epidemic. Deaths from opioids have more than quadrupled nationally since the late 90s. That rate has been lower in Texas. Opioid overdoses have roughly doubled in that same amount of time. This is probably due to a couple of factors. Texas has passed a handful of laws to take on the issue. One in 2010 clamped down on so-called pill mills, pharmacies that would shell out high amounts of painkillers. There's another law that requires pharmacies to track opioid prescriptions, and a law that went into effect this fall provides an open prescription across the state for naloxone, a drug that can prevent overdoses. So anyone can go to any pharmacy and pick up this drug. Meth and heroin are still really popular because they're cheap and easy to access, but opioid abuse is still on the upswing.
It's trickling down into the South. It used to be you'd say, do you know anybody who's died from suicide? Yeah. Well, now people go, oh yes, that person, my friend, overdosed.
Complicating the issue is bad data collection. Even though Texas records really low numbers of opioid overdoses, it has the second highest total healthcare costs in the country from opioid abuse. And 4 of the top 25 cities for opioid addiction are in Texas. Plus, there are huge swaths of the state without a medical examiner to confirm if people died of an overdose. And remember that law that required pharmacies to track opioid prescriptions? Only about a third of prescribers are signed up for the system so far.
There is an understanding that the data in Texas is not as good as I think everyone would like it to be, which then can lead to thinking that maybe this isn't as big a problem as it maybe really is. And so I think
Mike Mackert is the director for the UT Center for Health Communications. They're trying to get more prescribers to sign on to this prescription tracking system. And he says a big part of the problem is just how overdoses are tallied in Texas.
Data and stats might be showing one thing, but as we start to clean up different things, this is actually bigger. We might have been undercounting certain things. And this is a problem for all kinds of health data in every state, right? And so I think that the sense I've gotten is that the state is starting to realize better data is going to show this is more of a problem in Texas than we might have thought a couple years ago.
It's become enough of an issue that Travis County Judge Sarah Eckhart has joined a lawsuit against several pharmaceutical companies.
This is not a lawsuit about just squeezing corporations for cash because we can. This lawsuit is about holding pharmaceutical companies accountable for their actions and also recouping dollars spent treating people who have grown addicted to prescription drugs. They're coming through our criminal court system, they're coming through our indigent healthcare system, and they are asking for help. And we are paying for that while the pharmaceutical companies have profited.
I have pictures up here of my daughter, and these were the November before she passed away. I have this here because I don't want my grandchildren to forget about their mom.
The scale and scope of the opioid epidemic in Texas is different than it is across the nation, but there is one thing that is the same across the board. It can and does impact people from all walks of life, just like grief.
And that's what the Christie Center has shown me, is that there is no standard, there's no box, fill in the box, this is somebody who can die of a drug overdose. Anyone can die of a drug overdose.